testimony no longer matched. Hey, night listener. Tonight, we enter the shadows. The rain taps against your window like a metronome counting down to a truth you won't like. The street outside is slick, reflecting dim orange streetlights, blurring under each passing car. A siren wails 2 blocks down distant, but pointed. You sit with the case file open again. Same page, same words, same photo. But tonight, her voice plays differently in your head. The witness. She said she saw him do it. She said she heard a scream, the crash, the silence. But tonight, when you replay it, the scream comes after the crash, and she says she was walking her dog. Except, you remember she didn't own a dog. You asked her that. Or did you? If the story found you, maybe it's because you've been followed too. You drag out the old VHS tape. No one uses them anymore. But that's what made it untouchable, analog, undeletable. You load it into the dusty player, and the screen flickers to life with its usual grain and static. There she is, Courtney Hale, blonde, pale, still, her hands folded in her lap like she's afraid to move too much. But there's something wrong with her voice now. You remember it being calm. Now it's shaking. She says, I saw him run out the side door. You freeze. You write down the sentence. But your transcript from 10 years ago says, I saw him run out the back door. Back, not side. Side means she saw something else. You rewind, replay, rewind again. Each time, the sentence changes slightly, softer, quicker, like it's hiding itself from you now. You open the folder again, and there's a photo in there that wasn't before. The same witness, but younger. Different clothes, different location. And next to her, you, smiling. You didn't remember that day, but she clearly did. So, before we vanish into this mystery, like the video and subscribe, only if you can handle the truth buried beneath the lies. Tell me where you're listening from tonight and whether you came for the truth, the thrill, or the justice. Now lock your doors, take a deep breath, and follow me into the dark. The phone rings. You answer, expecting silence. But it's her. I need to talk to someone who still remembers. The line clicks dead, and outside your window, there's a woman in a yellow raincoat, standing under the streetlight, just like the night she testified. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The photograph that wasn't there. Before you don't sleep, you just sit in the dark, staring at the file on your table like it might blink first. The photo you found doesn't belong in the case folder. Not by date, not by context, not by anything. But there it is. You, Courtney, and someone else blurry in the background. A third figure, face smudged, maybe motion blur, maybe deliberate. There's no timestamp, no location scrawled on the back. Just 3 people frozen in someone's memory, and one of them is you. You dig through your old boxes, the forgotten archives, coffee-stained manila folders, sticky notes, and brittle plastic sleeves. You weren't just assigned this case, you followed it obsessively. You told yourself it was about justice. Now you're not so sure. You find another copy of the photo, except it's different. In this version, you're not in it, only Courtney, and a man standing behind her. He's wearing a yellow raincoat, like the woman you saw outside your window. You rush back to the street, empty, no footprints, no rain, just your own breath, fogging in the cold. You knew she wasn't real. You just hoped she wouldn't come back. Inside, You line both versions of the photograph side by side. The backgrounds don't match. They're from the same moment, but different angles, different truths. Someone took these at the same time, from two different perspectives, which means someone else was there that night. Someone not in any report. You flip to Courtney's original statement again. I heard the glass break, then silence. But on the VHS, she says I didn't hear anything at first, just saw the blood. She said that version after the verdict. Why change it now? Unless the silence wasn't empty, it was covering for someone. And maybe, just maybe, it was covering for you. You try to recall what you were doing that night, where you were, who you were with. But there's a gap, a blank space in your timeline, tucked neatly between the call from dispatch and the moment you arrived on the scene. You check your notes from back then. No log from 9:47 p.m. Just a scribbled sentence. Door already open. Witness crying. No suspect. You don't remember writing it. And it's not in your handwriting. There's something under your fingernail, something black and hard. You scratch it out. It flakes like soot, and now the room smells like smoke. You check the photo again. The third figure, still blurred, now has your badge clipped to his belt. What if you've been the suspect all along? Everyone lies, especially the ones who hold the camera. You knew, but pretended you didn't. It was never about the truth. It was about control. Her eyes told a different truth. You play the video again. Courtney's testimony. Pause. Rewind. Zoom. It's not what she says that grabs you tonight. It's her eyes. They don't look at the prosecutor, or the defense, or the jury. Not really. They're watching something just above the camera lens. Someone standing behind it, off screen, unrecorded. You. That gaze isn't neutral. It's not fear. It's not confusion. It's calculated. Like she's waiting for a cue, or remembering a script you both wrote. You hit pause, freezing her face in mid-sentence. Lips parted, jaw tense, and those eyes piercing through layers of time are accusing. You knew this look. You've seen it before. Not in court, but in the mirror. The day you let a version of the truth slide by because it didn't serve your narrative. You dig through old court exhibits, not the files you logged officially, but the ones in the unconfirmed box, stuff that never made it to trial. Details dismissed as inconclusive. There's a contact sheet, surveillance stills from a gas station security camera, dated 3 hours before the murder, and in one frame, blurry, distant, but unmistakable. You see Courtney at the pump, smiling, leaning into the passenger side window, talking to someone, not a stranger, you. But you testified you didn't see her until the morning after the crime. So why are you in that frame? You check the timestamp. It's correct. The clerk's statement confirms the time, which means one of two things is true. Either Courtney lied under oath, or you did and forgot. The edges of reality start to fray. A metallic taste crawls up the back of your throat. Regret or adrenaline, you're not sure. You stare at the frozen frame. She's smiling too widely now, like she knows exactly what you'd forgotten. Like her entire testimony was built not to convict a killer, but to test how long it would take you to notice. You pace the room, boots creaking over scuffed tile. In the kitchen, your fridge hums louder than usual, anxious, like it's holding something cold it shouldn't. You open the freezer out of instinct. Inside, under a frostbitten bag of peas and a box of long-expired microwave dinners, there's an envelope. No name, just your handwriting. Don't trust the first version. You don't remember writing it, but the paper smells like the courthouse lobby. Inside is a single Polaroid. Courtney again, looking over her shoulder. A bruise beneath her collarbone. And in the background, reflected in a cracked mirror, is you, your back turned, your hand raised, but not in violence, in goodbye, or maybe in warning. What if she never changed her story? What if she's just telling the part you buried? You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The tape with no timestamp. The tape is labeled Interview Courtney Hale Raw. Sharpie lettering, half faded. You don't remember keeping a raw version. That wasn't procedure. You slide it into the player. No intro screen, no case number, just static. Then her voice. He told me not to speak unless they asked the right question. The room in the footage isn't the usual interview chamber. It's smaller. The wallpaper is peeling behind her. And there's a child's drawing taped to the wall. A sun with too many rays. Your voice asks, off camera, flatly. And did they? She nods. Slowly. They almost did. You feel your own pulse in your ears. Pause. Rewind. Play again. That voice. Your voice. You're not asking her what happened. You're asking what she remembers them asking. You flip open the case log. There's no note about this tape. It doesn't exist in evidence. Wasn't submitted. Wasn't referenced. You check the corner for the timestamp. Nothing. Just static. It's like someone filmed it outside of time, or erased the time afterward. You lean closer to the screen. Behind Courtney, something flickers. The mirror on the back wall. It's not a standard interview setup. It reflects a door that isn't part of police infrastructure. Something wooden, ornate, not a precinct. A house, your house. You freeze the frame. The mirror's cracked, same as the one in the photo from the freezer. There's a pattern forming fractures, showing up in places they shouldn't be. You reach under your couch cushions, dig through the mess, find the box you swore you destroyed. Inside case notes you tore up years ago. On top, a key, brass, ornate, heavier than it should be. You hold it in your hand. It matches the keyhole in the mirror door on the tape. But that room was never part of your house. Unless it used to be. You play the tape again. You're trying to spot something. Anything that proves it's staged, altered, faked. Courtney says something new this time. He said, if they believe me, it would ruin you. You pause, stare, not at her, but at yourself. That voice, flat, empty. You weren't interviewing her. You were training her. Suddenly, the rain starts hammering your window like fists. Outside, the woman in the yellow coat is back. Only now she's holding something. The mirror. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The lawyer who asked the wrong question. You pull up the court transcript again. The original trial, day 3, cross-examination, defense counsel Benjamin Lott, veteran, clean record, known for playing it safe until this question. Miss Hale, can you confirm the man you saw was wearing a badge? Simple, almost careless, but she hesitated. Not because she didn't know, because she did. You watched the video, playback synced to the transcript. When he asks, she doesn't just flinch. Her eyes dart not toward the accused, but toward the gallery, toward you. She doesn't answer for 4 full seconds, and when she does, I can't be sure. It was dark. You rewind. Again, she licks her lips before speaking an old tick. A tell. She was sure, but she lied to protect someone, or to warn them. You pick up the court sketch you found earlier, the one where you swore your own eyes looked back at you from the jury illustration. You'd brushed it off, thought it was your mind turning in on itself. But now you're not sure anymore. Not. You find your notes from that day in court, scribbled margins, coffee rings, a few underlined quotes. Next to that line was he wearing a badge you've written. Lot wasn't supposed to ask that. Supposed to? Who told him not to? You dig deeper. Buried in the case review files, you find a sealed memo between prosecution and lead detective. You, subject line witness management protocol. Your signature, your words, your plan to vet what Courtney would say and when. A line stands out. Direct her if she points to uniform presence, especially if it links to badge 0491. You stare at your own badge now. 0491. Cold, heavy, heavier than it ever used to feel. So, Lot asked the question. Courtney stalled, and you, off the record, made sure no one asked it again. You think back to that hallway meeting. Lot was sweating, whispered something about losing the thread, asked if he should back off the girl. You said, do what keeps you clean, but maybe he didn't. You call his office now, just to hear a voice, disconnected. Try his home number. Same. You open the file for the defense's final motion. Attached is a hand-drawn floor plan, Courtney's apartment. You didn't know they had that. In the bedroom, circled in red ink storage trap, under floorboards empty. You never searched there. Why not? Because she told you there was nothing, and you believed her, or pretended to. There's a knock at the door. You check the peephole. No one's there. Just a small box on your doormat. Inside, a single rubber band, the kind used to hold stacks of case files together, and a folded note. He asked the wrong question. You were supposed to correct it. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control, the basement door that shouldn't exist. You don't remember installing a second lock on the basement door, yet here it is brass, rusted at the edges, the kind of lock that belongs on an asylum, not a suburban home. It's been scratched, too, tiny claw marks, like someone tried to open it from the inside. You hold the key, the one from the mirror tape. It fits. The lock clicks open with a sigh, like it's relieved someone finally came back. You descend slowly. The air shifts. Damp, heavy, not like your basement has ever felt. You flick the light switch. Nothing. You use your phone flashlight. The beam flickers, catches the edge of something metal, a filing cabinet. But not yours. Not any kind you've seen in decades. It's government issue. Olive green, 4 drawers. The top one is open just a crack, like it's been waiting. Inside red folders, no case numbers, no department seals, just names. All witnesses, all women. You recognize the first name immediately. Courtney Hale. Next to it, a photo, paper clipped. One you've never seen before. She's sitting in a hospital bed, wrapped in gauze. No date, but she's clearly younger teenage maybe. There's a notation. Subject experienced memory destabilization. Trigger badge exposure. Recommend narrative reinforcement. You flip the page. Another woman. Another note. Implanted visual detail mirror reflection of unknown male. Result, successful redirection. What is this? You were a cop, not a spook. This is conditioning, psychological rewrites, suggestive insertions. Someone had been building Courtney's story long before the murder, and you were part of it. Your name appears on the third file, not typed, handwritten. It just says, Control Agent. Status slipping. There's no photograph, just a mirror shard taped inside. When you look into it, your reflection doesn't blink when you do. You slam the drawer shut. A sound echoes from the far corner of the basement. Not an object falling a voice. Soft. Breathless. You weren't supposed to remember this. You turn your light. Nothing. Except the smell burnt rubber and ammonia. Hospitals. Old ones. Sanitariums. You leave the basement in a hurry, slamming the door, jamming a chair under the handle. Back upstairs. Your hands shake. You find your badge and stare at it. The number she hesitated on. The number in the memo. The number tied to a script you forgot writing. A script she's still following. You open your fridge again. The mirror is inside. Still cold. Still cracked. Still showing a version of your face that isn't quite right. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The journal. She never wrote what you did. You find it behind the insulation panel in your attic, hidden where only a cop with obsessive tendencies would think to look. The leather is stiff, edges curled by heat or time or guilt. No name embossed, just a crude symbol scratched into the cover. Half eye, half flame. You know you've never seen it before, and yet your fingers open it like they've done it 100 times. Inside Courtney's handwriting. Except it's not hers. It's yours. Imitated. Practiced. Too perfect. Each page begins the same. If they ask, I'll say, he saved me. You read page after page. Variations of the same defense. Always passive. Always casting you as the rescuer. The protector. Never the witness. Never the man behind the mirror. Halfway through. The entries change tone, less diary, more instruction, bullet points, dialogue cues, emotional tags, like a script. Smile when they mention the blood. Blink twice before tears. Avoid using the word knife, substitute with sharp, if unsure. Repeat, it all happened so fast. You freeze. This wasn't a diary. This was training material. And you wrote it. The final page has only 2 lines. When he forgets, remind him. When he remembers, run. You slam the book shut. Your phone buzzes. No name, no number, just a text. Are you remembering now? You drop the phone. It lands face up, camera open, and on the screen, reflected in the attic's dusty window, stands a woman behind you. Yellow coat. Pale face, holding the mirror. But when you turn around, there's nothing there. Only your own shadow, stretching longer than it should. You descend the attic steps, slowly. The floor groans beneath your weight. Back in the living room, the mirror from the fridge now hangs on your wall, as if it's always been there. Cracked, wide enough to suggest a doorway, and behind the cracks, darkness that seems to move. You walk up to it. Your reflection looks like you, but it raises its hand a second after you do, lagging, glitching. Then it smiles. You do not. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The photograph that rewrote the past. You keep the mirror covered, now an old towel nailed over it like some superstitious ritual. But it hums, faintly, like it's remembering. You're trying to forget, but the photograph won't let you. You find it tucked behind a frame on your desk, your academy graduation photo. It shouldn't be there. You never kept other photos near that one. This dual one is Polaroid, faded. A group shot. 6 people, all smiling. Courtney's there, younger, barely 17, wearing the same dress she wore in her hospital photo. Her hand is resting on your shoulder, and you're smiling like you've known her forever. The others are strangers, or they should be. One man has a lazy eye and a lapel pin shaped like a keyhole. Another tall, pale, holding what looks like a clipboard, is wearing a badge. Not police, something else. Government, private cult. The background shows an abandoned building. You vaguely recognize the old juvenile facility on Halbert Street, demolished 5 years ago. You helped close the case on it. Or you thought you did. But this photo, this event never existed in any report. You flip it over. One word written on the back, reset. The pen is your handwriting, not similar to yours. Yours. You scan the photo on your phone, searching metadata. The image shouldn't have any, it's Polaroid, but somehow it does. Embedded text, a code string Courtney, variant L3, memory thread, identity reward 1, match unstable. You nearly drop the phone. You're not sure what scares you more, that you're being watched, or that you're the one who set the camera. That moment, that impossible photograph unlocks a sliver of memory. You're in that building. You're holding Courtney by the elbow. Someone behind you says she knows more than she remembers. Keep her scared. Keep her loyal. Then a flash. The photo. That photo. You stagger back. The lights flicker. You glance at the mirror behind the towel. Still covered. But something wet is beginning to soak through. You rip the towel down. Your reflection is wearing the uniform you wore when you first arrested Courtney. Except you never wore it that day, because you weren't the arresting officer. You were already inside the house when they came, helping her hide something under the floorboards. And she said, "You're not going to let them take me, right?" You told her no, but you're going to need to lie better than this. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The whisper. Behind the evidence. Locker, you return to the precinct for answers, even though it feels like trespassing now. The night shift clerk barely looks up when you flash your badge. Funny how authority works, how quickly people obey the number and not the person behind it. You descend into the evidence vault, past rows of grey drawers and freezer rooms, the metal shelves groan under their secrets. Locker 27C. That's where the weapon was stored. Courtney's supposed weapon. A kitchen knife with no fingerprints, no blood, no fibers, just placed there, like it wanted to be found. You punch in the code. The lock winds open. Inside, the knife is gone. In its place, a cassette tape and a white glove. Left hand, child-sized. You pick up the glove. It's damp and warm. Your stomach turns. You slide the tape into the portable recorder on the counter. It starts without static. Courtney's voice again, but younger, shaky. He said if I kept quiet, they'd forget I existed, that I could start over. Then silence, then your voice. But you didn't stay quiet, did you? She whispers something, too low to make out. You rewind, play again, still unclear. You turn up the gain. She says, "No, you needed me to talk." Another pause. Then she adds, "Or else they'd find you." Suddenly, the lights in the vault buzz, then click out completely. Your phone flashlight beams across the lockers, casting long, thin shadows. And in the corner by the cold storage door, you hear the whisper, "Locker 43. You hesitate, but you go. Locker 43F isn't supposed to be assigned to your case. You open it. Inside a mirror. Not the same as before. This one's whole. Pristine. Mounted to the back wall of the locker like it was built in. You stare into it. This time, you don't see yourself. You see her, Courtney, sitting in a chair, wearing the yellow coat, eyes blank. But behind her is a chalkboard filled with diagrams, instructions, timelines, behavioral conditioning. It's a classroom. You tap the glass. She flinches. She's watching you back. You slam the locker shut, breathing hard. The air in the vault is thick with ammonia and something else, formaldehyde. You hear footsteps behind you, fast and deliberate. You turn. No one. Only the echo. Only the hallway. Only your shadow. Standing wrong against the wall, angled as if the light source was somewhere beneath the floor. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The confession that wasn't hers. The audio file shows up on your desktop without warning. No email, no timestamp, just a name. Confession. Final. Bob. You check the metadata. Created today. Time matches exactly when you were in the vault. The hairs on your arms rise. You hesitate. Then press play. It's Courtney. Or someone who sounds like her, but older. Too precise. Like a rehearsed actress. No tremble in the voice this time. I did it. I killed him. He had it coming. You pause the tape. That's not how she talks. Not even under pressure. You rewind. Listen again. The voice continues. He kept coming to the house, asking questions, leaving things under the bed. I warned him. I told him to stop. But you were the one asking those questions, and you never told her anything about underbed evidence, because that never made it into any report. You keep listening. The voice says, I gave him the knife. I watched him bleed. I cleaned it up. I made it look like it wasn't me. She chuckles. A sound you've never heard from Courtney, not in real life, not in any recorded deposition. Then, at the end, there's something quieter, almost spliced in, your own voice, whispering. This version will stick. No one questions a full confession. You freeze. Your breath feels artificial, like someone else is breathing for you. You look over at the mirror, still uncovered now. Your reflection has its hand over its mouth, but you don't. The symbols from the journal flash in your mind again. Eye, flame, keyhole. You grab the photo you found earlier and flip it. This time, the word reset is gone. In its place, iteration 8, collapse detected. The confession was planted. Digitally, vocally, maybe even mentally. Which means Courtney never confessed. You needed her to confess, so you made her believe she had. Or worse, you made yourself believe it. Your phone buzzes. A video message. You hit play. The screen shows your office real time. The angle's high, like from a smoke detector. You're not alone in the video. There's someone in the corner of the room. Yellow coat. Standing still. Watching your back. Except when you spin around. No one's there. Just the faint outline of wet footprints leading into your closet. You open the door. Inside, hanging from a single hook, is the left-hand glove. It's dry now. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The mirror in the courtroom wasn't decorative. You returned to the courthouse under the guise of a procedural request. Something about audio integrity. You say the word chain of custody, and the clerk doesn't ask questions. But you're not here for the tape. You're here for the mirror. Courtroom 2, the one with the ornate frame behind the witness box. You'd always assumed it was some old design holdover, a relic from the 1930s, like the crumbling ceiling fans and pew-style benches. But today, it feels wrong. Too clean, too central, too intentional. You sit in the empty gallery, alone, except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the soft creak of history underfoot. The mirror stares back at you. You walk up to it slowly. Courtney testified here. You remember it clearly, her fidgeting fingers, her flat tone, her eyes darting to the left every time she was asked about the murder weapon. Back then, you thought it was just nerves. Now you wonder if the mirror was coaching her. You lean in close. It doesn't show your reflection. It shows the courtroom on a different day. The benches are filled with people in old-fashioned suits. The judge is someone you've never seen before. Tall, shadowed, face flickering like bad film stock. And in the witness box, it's not Courtney, it's you, testifying, mouth moving, saying things you can't hear. You reach for the glass, and the instant your fingertips touch it, you're overwhelmed by a memory. Not from the trial, from before. You're in a windowless room. Courtney sits across from you, hooked up to wires, electrodes at her temples. A woman with surgical gloves is whispering. Language centers are compliant. Run protocol 6. Then you speak flat. Rehearsed Courtney. Do you remember what you saw? She shakes her head. You nod. Good. You're ready to tell your story now. The mirror jolts you back. You stagger. Behind you, someone coughs. You whirl around. No one. But a folder now sits on the edge of the prosecution table. You pick it up. Inside an affidavit. Signed by you. Dated a week before the trial. You don't remember writing it. It outlines Courtney's trauma history, her credibility, her recovered memory. You remember testifying that she was unreliable. But this document says you pre-approved her as a star witness. The contradiction is clean, polished, manufactured. The signature matches your own too perfectly. You hear footsteps now, deliberate, echoing, but they don't match yours. They trail yours, like someone's been walking behind you this whole time, matching your rhythm half a beat late. You leave the courtroom, but the mirror doesn't let you go. When you check your phone that night, the background photo has changed. It's a still image of you, in the courtroom, sitting in the witness box, hands on the Bible, swearing to tell the truth. Your reflection, in the photo, it's smiling, but your mouth is shut. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The page that was never in the file. You return home, thinking maybe this time you'll sleep. You won't. Because the case file, Courtney's file, sits open on your desk, though you're sure you left it locked in your drawer. You thumb through the familiar pages, crime scene photos, handwritten statements, the autopsy report of the victim, Dean Fallon. Blunt force trauma, possibly a blade, no defensive wounds, all expected. But then something new, a page you've never seen before, typewritten on translucent tracing paper, tucked between pages 14 and 15. No header, no file code, just a title. At the top, Amendment Behavioral Modulation Program, Asset 6C. You freeze. The paragraph below lists a timeline. Bullet points. Phase 1. Subject introduced to handler designation 0491. Phase 2. Trauma induction. Loss of sibling. Fabricated. Phase 3. Constructed memory implantation via mirror exposure and auditory cues. Phase 4. Testimony. Rehearsal under dissociative protocol. You grip the edge of the desk to steady yourself. That's your personnel ID from when you worked undercover narcotics. It had never appeared in Courtney's case. Not officially. The next line seals it. If handler exhibits recall outside operation bounds, initiate correction. Loop protocol B. You sit down, fast, suddenly, the phrase Courtney kept whispering in her sleep. You made me remember wrong. Feels like an accusation. You flip the page over. Handwritten this time. Scrawled. It says, Do not let him testify again. The cracks are forming, signed only with a circle inside a triangle. You walk to your bathroom. Splash cold water on your face. The mirror there fogs from nothing. Words appear in the condensation. Why did you lie? You wipe it away. But the words don't vanish. They're etched in now. You take a step back, and your reflection remains. It doesn't move, just stares, holding something behind its back, a knife or a page. You can't tell. Your phone buzzes. Another message. No name. Just an audio file. He was never supposed to die, but you made sure he did. Attached is a photograph. Dean Fallon, but his eyes have been blacked out with red ink and written across his chest in bold marker. The truth was staged. Your hands are shaking. You lock every door, every window, but you can still hear the footsteps, still feel the breath on your neck, still see the reflection doing things you haven't done. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The witness protection file that protected no one. You don't remember authorizing the transfer, but the documents are clear. Courtney was moved into federal protection 2 weeks before the trial, according to the forms tucked inside a plain manila envelope you find under your bed. The same bed where you used to find your missing socks. Now you find government paperwork. Isn't that worse? The form is stamped Confidential Subject 6C, Program Echo. The signature line reads 0491, Approving Agent. You want to laugh or scream, but your voice doesn't feel like yours anymore. Attached is a photograph, a surveillance shot of Courtney entering a facility marked Bridgepoint Institute for Behavioral Health. Except, you know that place doesn't exist. You drive out to the address listed. It leads you to a burnt-out lot. No signage, no remnants, just ash and the smell of ozone, like something recent and wrong happened. You walk the perimeter. Your boots crunch over broken glass. You step on something soft. It's a child's coat, yellow. You kneel to pick it up. Underneath is a badge, yours. Only it's not a spare. It's your badge. The one in your wallet now is suddenly gone. You feel sick. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You return to your car. The passenger seat is damp. On the dash, someone has drawn a symbol in condensation, the circle and triangle again. Underneath, you're not supposed to ask. The voice message comes through your earpiece while the ignition stalls. It's Courtney's voice. No fear, no hesitation. You kept telling me I was safe, that if I said the words in the order they gave me, I'd get to leave. But I didn't leave. Did I? Then silence. Then your voice again. Flat and deliberate. That was never part of the objective. You were a variable, not a person. The file never protected her. It protected the lie, and it shielded you. You turned the radio dial to clear your head. Static. Then a voice crackles through old, broken, familiar. Handler. 0491. Loop integrity at 72%. Subject. Memory stabilization failing. Mirror access restricted. Initiate failsafe. You look in the rearview mirror. You're alone, but your reflection is speaking. Mouth forming words you can't hear, but you know what it's saying. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The audio didn't match the mouth. You're back in the interview room, the one with the two-way mirror and the humming fluorescent light that always flickered when someone lied. Except tonight, the flicker doesn't stop. It's strobing, pulse-like, too fast for coincidence. You hit play on the security footage. It's Courtney's first deposition, 3 weeks before the trial. You've watched it before her slumped posture, her half whispers, the way she kept reaching for a necklace that wasn't there. But now, you're watching it differently. You turn off the sound, and you watch her mouth, what she's saying. It doesn't match the transcript. The subtitles burned into the official copy, words like "he attacked me." I screamed. I ran. Don't align with the way her lips are moving. In the footage, her mouth says something else. This isn't what I saw. Please, you're making me say this over and over. You rewind. You crank the brightness. You zoom in. Her lips are saying, "He didn't die the way you said. You told me not to remember. Please stop." But none of those words made it into the record. You open the file cabinet. You pull out the transcript from that day. Stamped, reviewed and verified. Signed by you. Except your signature is backward, like it was mirrored. You step back. The mirror behind you shows the interview room, but there's something wrong in the reflection. Courtney is still sitting in the chair, mouth sewn shut, eyes wide, frozen. You're behind her, holding a tablet, watching her speak silently. But your reflection's mouth moves too. She said too much. The lie needed to breathe. You hear a knock on the door. 3 sharp taps. You open it. The hallway outside is black. No light. Just a single red LED blinking at the end of the corridor. A camera. Recording. You pull your phone to check the time, but the screen is nothing but static. Your own voice comes through the speaker. "This loop will fail like the others. Prepare the replacement." You run down the hallway, past doors labeled with codes. 6C, 7F, 8A. You stop at one with your badge number. It opens automatically. Inside is a room you've never seen. A clean white space, sterile. Monitors along the walls. Photos of Courtney at various ages. Test scores, psychological profiles. One marked red flagged. Repeated conscious override. On the central monitor is a still frame of her testimony. But the audio below reads, "Subject failed to comply fully. Instability increasing. Handler contamination likely. Handler contamination." You, on the far wall, there's a mirror. It doesn't show the room you're in. It shows the courtroom. Again, only now it's empty. No judge, no jury, just one person, Courtney, wearing the yellow coat, sitting in the jury box, watching you and smiling. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The voice in the mirror was yours. You lock yourself in your apartment. You unplug the mirrors. Yes, unplug them, because now you're convinced they're not just glass and reflection. They hum at night, faintly, like dormant machines. You smash the one in your hallway. The fragments scatter across the floor like teeth. But the image doesn't die. Each shard holds a piece of your face, and some of them move even when you stay still. You stare into one sliver long enough to hear the voice. It's yours, but slower, heavier, like something mimicking you without fully understanding what it means to be you. You lied. Remember, you told her the story would be safe, that the truth was too dangerous to tell raw. You whisper to the shard, "I did what I was told." The voice laughs a sound that shouldn't echo in a broken room. No, you believed what you were told. That's worse. You sweep the glass into a bag, but your hands bleed. The cuts are thin, but deep, like they knew where to split you open. You stumble to the couch. The TV turns on without prompt. Surveillance footage. Courtney in her cell. She's talking to someone, but no one is there. She gestures. She smiles. She laughs. Then she stops, looks directly at the corner of the room where the mirror is mounted, and she says it. I remember what you did to him, and I remember how you made me do it. You rewind. You play it again, this time with subtitles off. The words don't match her lips. Again. But now you recognize whose voice is playing through the speakers yours. If you don't say what we told you, you don't get out. Simple as that. She nods in response. Then, she glances into the mirror. Her mouth forms 3 words silently. You lip read them like a prayer. You were there. Your phone rings. An unknown number. You don't answer. The voicemail autoplays. It's breathing. Then a soft whisper. You sat in the jury too. You check the trial footage. The original reel. The gallery is packed. But when you pause at frame 217, there you are. 3rd row. Not the cop. Not the handler. Just you in civilian clothes. Watching. Smiling. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The testimony you never gave you. Wake in a chair you don't remember sitting in. It's wood, heavy, old, like something pulled from a courtroom that never made it to trial. A manila envelope sits on your lap, stamped, sealed affidavit. Subject, the 0491. Do not open unless Donald's trial fails. Your fingers tremble as you open it. Inside a transcript, your voice, testimony, sworn, dated 6 days before the murder, but you never spoke these words. Page 1. I understand the consequences of memory modification under Operation Mirror Walk. I accept all distortions and fabricated timelines as essential to national interests. Page 2. The girl, subject 6C, believes her memory is real. That belief must not break. Page 3. In the event of procedural unraveling, I consent to full identity dissolution. Identity dissolution. You close your eyes, but the words tattoo themselves behind your lids. You throw the file across the room. Pages scatter like white feathers. You think of the mirror in Courtroom 2, the voice that didn't match the mouth, the surveillance footage where you were both the observer and the observed. And now you realize this story isn't about her anymore. It's about you. A knock on the door. 3 times. Slow. Familiar. You don't answer. You pull your weapon standard issue. Registered. But now, suspiciously clean. No scratches. No fingerprints. Like it just appeared in your drawer last night. You check the peephole. No one. You step back and the peephole becomes a pupil. A watching eye. Yours. You blink and the apartment disappears. You're in a courtroom. But everything is reversed, mirror flipped. Text is backwards. The judge has no face. The jury. 12 identical copies of Courtney. Each one smiling. Each one holding a tape recorder. In the witness box is you, but your mouth is sewn shut. The judge speaks in 1,000 voices. Tell them the truth. You try to scream, but the sound comes from the jury. Courtney. 1. You knew. Courtney. 2. But pretended you didn't. Courtney. 3. Everyone lies. The rest together. Especially the quiet ones. The bailiff walks toward you. Hands you a cracked photograph. It's your family. Only they're looking past you through you like you've already vanished. The courtroom fades. You're back in your apartment. But the transcript pages are neatly stacked again on your lap. And this time, they're signed in your blood. At the bottom, it was never about the truth. It was about control. The memory that wasn't yours. You go back to your childhood home because you're out of leads, out of logic, and maybe, just maybe, out of yourself. The house is abandoned now, gutted by time and silence. The walls still bear the faint outlines of photos long since removed, their square ghosts clinging to the wallpaper like echoes. You find your old bedroom. The door creaks open like it recognizes your guilt. The floor still has that loose board you used to hide things under. You pry it up. Inside a box, not one you remember placing there. Inside the box, a VHS tape, labeled only with one word, written in a child's hand. Testimony. You don't even own a VCR anymore, but when you return to your car, there's one in the back seat. It wasn't there before. You don't ask questions anymore. You just plug it in and play the tape on the tiny monitor built into the dash. The footage is grainy, time-coded, dated 22 years ago. A child sits in a courtroom, 8, maybe 9 years old, hair like yours, mannerisms like yours. He's testifying. She told me what to say, said it'd make the monsters go away, said if I said the right words, they'd stop hurting him. So I did. I said them. I made the monsters go away. The camera zooms in. It is you, your childhood self, giving testimony in a case you don't remember. The opposing counsel's voice interrupts. And who told you what to say? Sweetheart, the mirror lady. And what did she look like? The child you shrugs. She looked like me. You eject the tape, but the screen stays on. Now it's showing the present. Courtney, in a new room, alone. She's reading from a piece of paper. Your name is on it. Handler 0491 was exposed to recursive memory implantation. Subject terminated 3 loops ago. This is not the first cycle, or the 5th. It is the last. You look in the rear view mirror. Your eyes are bleeding. You blink. They're fine. You blink again. They're sewn shut, but only in the reflection. And yet, you see yourself smile. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The tape that rewound without you. You leave the house with shaking hands. The streets outside are empty. Too empty. No wind, no birds. Just the kind of silence that hums behind your ears like a warning before something breaks. You drive, nowhere in particular, just away. But every road leads you back to the courthouse. You circle 3 times before the building lets you in. That's what it feels like letting you in, as if it had a say in the matter. Inside, the lights flicker, not broken, just timed, deliberately. Morse code in fluorescence. You follow the pattern like it means something. Down the hallway, into the basement. You've never been here before, except you have. The walls know you. You swipe your badge at a steel door with no number. It opens. Inside is a viewing room. 6 screens, each playing footage of the same trial, but each is slightly different. On one, Courtney sobs and points at the defendant. On another, she refuses to speak. On another still, she stands up and walks out. Each screen has a timer counting down to 0, except the last one. That one is counting up from 1 second to now, and you're in it, in the back row, watching the footage, watching yourself. Watch it. You press rewind. The tape jerks, fuzzes, glitches. It lands on a still frame of you years ago, standing in front of Courtney, hand on her shoulder, whispering into her ear. The audio track plays. It won't hurt if you say it like we practiced. You want to go home, don't you? You whisper to the screen. I was trying to help, but your reflection shakes its head. You were trying to erase. You look down. Your clothes have changed. No badge, no sidearm, just a white coat. Clinical, cold, the kind that doesn't belong to justice, but to experiments. A clipboard appears in your hand. Your handwriting. Subject 6C. Memory loop 12. Reality drift. Acceptable. Compliance increasing. You flip to the next page. Recommended action. Terminate trial. Initiate memory collapse for handler. You slam the clipboard shut. The door behind you clicks open. Footsteps. Courtney. Wearing the yellow coat. Older now. Eyes clear. You wrote the ending, she says, and now you're trapped in it. You turn back to the screens. They all show you. Alone. Screaming. But no sound comes out. The sound is coming from behind you now. A voice. Your own. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The verdict wasn't meant for her. The courtroom is filled again, but this time, no one's breathing. You stand in the witness box, alone. No lawyers, no judge, just a rustling sound, like papers being shuffled or wings unfolding. The jury box is full, but not with people. Files, stacked neatly, labeled evidence suppressed. Each one bears your initials. You try to speak, but the microphone crackles. It sparks, then melts. A hiss of smoke curls upward. A woman walks in. Not Courtney. Not exactly. She wears her face, but sharper, hollowed out, like she stepped out of a memory and forgot to bring warmth with her. Sit down, she says, but you're already seated. She walks to the bench. Her heels click like a metronome. She picks up a gavel made of glass. She taps it once. It doesn't echo. This hearing is for you. 0491. Charge. Manipulation of perception. Verdict. Already decided. You try to protest, but the words form backwards on your tongue. The files begin to open themselves. Pages flutter. Photographs of Courtney as a child. Hospital beds. Tape recorders. Court transcripts altered in pen your pen. You spot a document marked Loop 14. Beneath it, handwritten, subject destabilizing. Handler unable to distinguish guilt from duty. Another one, Loop 9. The note reads, subject attempted self-disclosure. Handler overcorrected. And then, Loop 1. No note, just a single photograph. You and Courtney, standing together in front of a one-way mirror, smiling, her hand in yours. She couldn't have been older than 10. On the back, this one almost worked. You look up. The courtroom is empty again, except for Courtney, the real one, or the most recent version. She's standing next to the jury box, holding the verdict. She doesn't read it aloud. She just lets it fall. Paper scatters around your feet like ash. One sheet lands face up, typed in clean, unbroken lines. It was never about her trauma. It was about your redemption. And you failed. Every time you rise to speak, but a mirror descends from the ceiling, lowering slowly until it's angled toward you. Your reflection isn't alone. 12 versions of you stand behind it, all dressed in courtroom attire, all wearing your face, some smiling, some crying, some screaming. You try to look away, but your neck stiffens. You're not in the courtroom anymore. You're on a stage, under lights. Behind a podium, a single spotlight burns above you. Courtney sits in the front row, alone, taking notes. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The truth didn't need her to speak. You wake in a room not glass mirrors. Each wall reflects a version of you, slightly askew. One wears your uniform, one clutches a tape recorder, one holds Courtney's yellow coat. They don't move when you do. You're not in control anymore. In the center of the room, a chair, and in that chair, a child. Courtney, maybe, or someone who once was. She doesn't look at you. She's watching footage on an endless loop, your face leaning in, whispering things no child should hear. The tape ends. She presses play again and again. You step forward, and all the reflections flicker. One by one, they turn their heads toward you. Their mouths move at the same time. You were never a detective. You were the experiment. You wanted to believe her lies because they fit better than the truth. You cover your ears. The walls crack. Shards fall like rain, slicing through time, memory, identity. The girl in the chair finally speaks, soft, barely audible, but it lands like thunder. I didn't change my story. You changed what the story meant. You fall to your knees because now you remember everything. The real crime wasn't what happened in that alley. It was what came after the decisions, the edits, the motivations you wrapped in the language of justice to hide the rot of control. She never lied. She told you the truth. You just rewrote it. And when the story threatened to unravel, you framed her silence as deception, her confusion as guilt. You told the world she cracked, but it was always you. The reflections dissolve, the mirrors vanish. You are alone in a white room with a single black recorder on the floor. You press play. It's your voice, sobbing. I knew, but pretended I didn't. Everyone lied, especially me. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The lights dim. Courtney's voice whispers behind you, and you still didn't listen. Everything fades to black. The silence afterward feels like a verdict. Not loud, not official, just final. A soft hum of fluorescent lights flickers somewhere above. The sound barely louder than your breath. The air hangs heavy, as if even it's unsure what to do with what just unfolded. No applause, no gavel, no epilogue. You're left with the aftermath. A room that may or may not exist. A story you may or may not have told. A girl who might have been your victim, or your mirror, or your judge. Somewhere, a tape keeps rewinding, looping back to the moment everything went wrong, and the moment you insisted it didn't. You ask yourself, was the truth ever mine to tell? You used to believe in answers. Now you're not sure there were even real questions. Outside, the rain starts again. Noir rain. The kind that blurs shadows and washes nothing clean. It just reminds you that the world keeps turning, even when the story ends mid-sentence. The mirror didn't crack. You did. And the silence she kept. Maybe it wasn't guilt. Maybe it was survival. Maybe it was the only truth you couldn't rewrite. And now, as the last echo fades, something inside you loosens. Not forgiveness, but understanding. You're still not sure what part you played. Detective, handler, pawn, ghost. But the lights are dimming now. And this time, no one's watching. Sleep, if you can. But check the locks first, just in case her silence decides to speak again. End of script. Sleep well, and watch your back. And